This is Corbin Smith from the Seahawks Wire here for another film breakdown, looking at newest Seahawks linebacker Barkevious Mingo. The former first-round pick for the Cleveland Browns was signed to a 2-year, $6.8 million contract. He's a very versatile player who played defensive end at LSU and has seen some snaps anywhere from the 5, 7, and 9 technique in the NFL, but he spent the bulk of his time in the National Football League playing a hybrid role as a 3-4 linebacker. He did that last season for the Indianapolis Colts, 44 tackles, 2 sacks, and he did start 6 games for Indianapolis. Showed some versatility, the ability to line up all over the field. Depending on the formation, Mingo can slide around as a stand-up linebacker. He can blitz from anywhere on the field. He gives his defensive coordinator a lot of options. He hasn't lived up to his draft pedigree and has played for 3 teams in 5 NFL seasons, but the Seahawks are banking on being able to get the most out of this former first-round pick. I took the time to watch all 6 of the games Barkevious Mingo started for the Colts in 2017, and there's a few obvious flaws that have prevented him from being able to live up to the draft hype coming out of LSU. At only 240 pounds, he doesn't have the body to be able to hold up against stronger offensive linemen. A great example came against the Denver Broncos last season. Rookie tackle Garrett Bowles is going to latch his hands onto Barkevious Mingo. He's going to drive him backwards and eventually pancake him. Mingo battles, but he just doesn't have enough junk in the trunk to be able to hold up as an every down defensive end in the NFL. And while he's improved a great deal in his NFL career at setting the edge, there's still times where he doesn't attack the lead blocker. In this case against Baltimore, Mingo lets the fullback coming out of the backfield be the aggressor, gets his shoulders turned at Alex Collins, sprints for the first down. Despite his issues against bigger blockers and sometimes not being aggressive enough going against blocks, Mingo is an elite athlete capable of disrupting any run play when he gets penetration. Against San Francisco, not sure what the 49ers were doing with their blocking scheme, shoots the gap and destroys Hyde for a 4-yard loss. Similarly, against the Ravens, this appears to be some sort of a read play. The Ravens are using Mingo as a key defender, meaning that they're reading his actions to decide whether they're going to give the football or Joe Flacco is going to hang on to it. Mingo gives him an indecisive read, Flacco hands it off, and he stuffs Alex Collins. I was also impressed with Mingo's overall physicality. For not being a big-bodied defensive lineman, he's not shy around contact, especially when he's going against tight ends and fullbacks that are doing wham blocks across the line of scrimmage. On this run, the tight end tries to go low on Mingo, but he just tosses him aside and then stacks up Foreman in the backfield for a nice tackle. In another example against Baltimore, this time with Mingo lining up with his hands in the dirt, not a stand-up backer. This time he's playing the 7 technique as a defensive end. He's going to come flying off the edge, work his way down the line, and you're going to see a great collision between him and the tight end on a wham block. He's going to maintain leverage and stack up Alex Collins at the line of scrimmage. As shown earlier, Mingo doesn't always attack blocks, but he does a great job holding ground against tight ends and maintaining contain on outside runs. Against Jacksonville, Leonard Fournette's going to try to bounce this one. Mingo gets off the tight end block, immediately meets Fournette, 4-yard loss. In the other game against Jacksonville, this time with Chris Ivory in the backfield, once again, he's going to maintain outside leverage against the tight end. He's going to keep his head on a swivel as Ivory darts outside. He's going to rip off the block and help set that edge. Ivory has nowhere left to go but the sideline. Looking at my favorite example of Barkevious Mingo setting the edge, the Colts played a classic blizzard game in Buffalo last season. Very difficult footing, tough to wrap up ball carriers. Mingo maintains contain, gets off of his block, and though he doesn't make the tackle and McCoy slips away, he only gets a few more yards before getting to the sideline. Checking out one more great play in the run game for Barkevious Mingo. Much as Bruce Irvin did when he played for the Seahawks, Mingo holds up well against inline tight ends. In this case, he stalemates the block, using his long arms to hold up at the point of attack, disengages from the block, and then corrals Alex Collins. When the Browns snagged Mingo as the 6th overall selection of the 2013 NFL Draft, they felt they were drafting a premier pass rushing prospect, somebody that could pin his ears back and get into the backfield to corral quarterbacks on a frequent basis. He's never developed into that with 3 teams so far in his NFL career, and the big reason for that has been his inability to develop pass rushing moves. He's relied too much on his natural athletic ability and his speed off the edge. He's also been relatively ineffective rushing the quarterback as a blitzer, something Indianapolis tried to do often by running stunts and twists with him him playing in the middle. Despite his struggles during his first 5 NFL seasons, however, Mingo still provides plenty of flash plays that tease fans into believing that he's finally figuring out how to be an NFL pass rusher. On this play against Denver, he uses a quick stutter step, explodes around the edge, and then finds Trevor Siemian for his first sack of the season. Just 1 week later, once again playing as a stand-up linebacker on the outside, Mingo is going to use his long arms to create separation against the tight end. Once he's gained leverage, he's going to use a well-executed rip move to the outside and explode around the edge. Once his teammate misses the initial sack, he's going to track down Flacco to bring him down for a big loss. While those were the only 2 sacks that Mingo made in a reserve role for the Colts last season, he started to show some signs of figuring out some counter moves to use with his speed. On this play against Jacksonville, he uses an initial bull rush, spins off, and hits Blake Bortles, forcing an errant throw down the sideline. In the same game against Jacksonville, Mingo nearly gets to Bortles again. Once again, with his hand in the turf as a down defensive end, he's going to attempt to slip inside using hand fighting techniques, and then counters with an outside spin move. Unfortunately, he's not able to get to Bortles, and he gets the pass to Marquise Lee for a big gain for Jacksonville. Revisiting the Ravens game, Mingo once again further showed development of pass rushing moves in his 5th NFL season by executing a jab and go move. Mingo shoots inside and fires a powerful left punch, but he's unable to get to Flacco in time before he unloads the pass. While the Seahawks may find value in Mingo simply rushing the passer straight up off the edge, new defensive coordinator Ken Norton Jr. should be able to run twists and other stunts like the Colts did here to help create free rushing lanes for Barkevious Mingo to hit the quarterback. In a stunt similar to the one Seattle has used with Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, and Irvin during their time with the team, the Colts had both defensive tackles stun inside on this play against Cleveland, and Mingo twists behind him to get a free running lane through the B gap. Though he fails to get the sack, he puts a big hit on Deshaun Kaiser. When Mingo isn't able to pin his ears back and get to the quarterback, he's also an instinctive player that understands how to use his long arms to disrupt passing lanes. On this play against the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger's trying to unload the football quickly. Mingo gets his hands up and swats the ball away. Swinging to coverage now, Mingo's a natural enough athlete that he's been able to make the transition to being a linebacker that plays coverage on a regular basis. He puts himself in a position to make a play frequently, though his open field tackling does leave something to be desired. At times, he's a bit too much of an arm tackler and takes bad angles, like he did on this play against Baltimore. Though you wouldn't want to match Mingo up against a fast wide receiver, he's athletic enough to handle most tight ends, fullbacks, and even plays some against slot receivers. On this play, Mingo shows his physicality, jamming the fullback on his route and sticking with the play. Once again, he fails to get a clean wrap on the ball carrier. Still, he shields him off towards the sideline, and with that, he forced the ball carrier out of bounds after only picking up 1 yard after the catch. As that last play attests to, Mingo actually reacts extremely well for a player that's still relatively new to being a linebacker and playing in coverage. One of the most impressive plays that I saw from him came against the Steelers in man coverage against Le'Veon Bell, the Swiss Army knife of running backs. Bell normally kills his opponents after the catch on these quick passes, but check out the closing speed exhibited by Mingo. He's able to get there and jar the football away from Bell's hands. Once again in man coverage on this play against the Baltimore Ravens, Mingo's going to show off fluid hips here. He's going to stay stride for stride with a tight end that's going to be running a deep out route. Flacco isn't going to test him on this play because there's a pass rusher coming. He's going to dump it off to the running back. Mingo looks comfortable running in space. He stays hip to hip on the tight end. That throw isn't open, and if Flacco attempts to thread it in there, that's going to be at least a deflection. Like most hybrid linebackers, Mingo's not going to be lined up directly across from a slot, but he's more than capable of matching up against athletic slots on short or intermediate routes, especially if he's dropping into zone. He's very instinctive for a player that doesn't have a ton of experience playing the linebacker position. He reacts quickly once the football's out of the quarterback's hand and makes tackles. These instincts will be very valuable to Mingo playing in Seattle, as the Seahawks have always valued limiting yak yardage, or yards after the catch. While he's not the most natural open field tackler, Mingo does a great job keeping receivers in front of him. Like on this play, a shallow cross ran by the Ravens, Mingo drops back in zone, he reads and reacts to the throw, and then quickly uses his closing speed to hit the receiver at the point of the catch. No yak yardage for you. In another great example against the Houston Texans, this is going against Bruce Ellington, another really shifty slot receiver that had a breakout season for the Texans last year. He generates a lot of yards after the catch. Mingo fakes the blitz through the A-gap and then drops back into zone. Ellington runs an in route right in front of Mingo. He promptly reacts, wraps up the ball carrier, no yak yardage once again. Looking at one last play in coverage, I was really impressed with how Barkevious Mingo handled this. The Ravens have their tight end running a seam route down the middle of the field. They're hoping to run off at least one of the linebackers with that and open up room underneath for the shallow cross. Mingo's going to jam the tight end and then come off of the jam to quickly make the tackle in the middle of the field. Once again, Mingo does a great job keeping the receiver in front of him, and once he gets him wrapped up, he stops him without any yards after the catch. There are plenty of reasons why Barkevious Mingo has been unable to live up to the draft hype coming out of LSU. He's a flawed player that struggles to match up against bigger offensive linemen and hasn't developed many counter moves to his pass rushing game. But one thing that cannot be denied, he plays with a motor every single play. On this play against Cincinnati, he gets beaten coverage initially but punches the football out from behind and gets the fumble. Going back to the Buffalo Blizzard game, nearly invisible whiteout conditions, this is incredible effort here. Mike Tolbert is an absolute load to bring down. He's got tons of running room going up the middle, but Mingo's going to get off his block, and he's going to sprint in pursuit from behind, force the football out, and the Colts get a key fumble. Many times NFL teams leave backside defensive ends and linebackers unblocked because they don't think they can make plays. Mingo burned teams a couple times last year for that, including the Titans here. Murray running this wildcat play, Mingo tracks the run all the way from the other side, pursues it and makes the tackle. Similarly against the Cincinnati Bengals, he shows off his motor fighting past an attempted cut block by the left tackle. He still manages to run down the play in backside pursuit and corral the ball carrier at the 2-yard line. Just look at the effort. Every play, he brings it. This effort can also be seen from Mingo as a pass rusher. Even if his initial rush doesn't work out, like on this play against the Denver Broncos, he's going to continue to try to find ways to make a play. Brock Osweiler doesn't have anyone open and tries to scramble out to his right. Mingo gets off of his block and sprints towards Osweiler, chasing him all the way towards the sideline and forcing an incomplete pass. Finishing up with a play that really shows why the Seahawks had interest in bringing Mingo to Seattle. After initially covering the running back in the flats, Mingo's going to chase down the receiver after the catch and stop a potential touchdown. This is the kind of incredible effort Pete Carroll wants on his Seahawks football team.